Recently I was asked, what are your favorite mobile/computer games? It's a good question, but it was on the wrong video. Phoenix TV is a tech channel, so the possible topics are more than just video games. But this video is obviously about video games, so here is the perfect place to answer the question. What are your favorite video games? Now, I've been playing video games for decades, but before I get started with my top 10 list, what are your top 10 favorite video games? You can say so in the comments. Hopefully an amazing conversation gets started. The trouble with pinpointing the top video games of all time is that technology has improved. Games that I thought were amazing in the 1980s or 1990s could be pretty terrible today. So that's just something to consider. A lot of my favorite games have to do with when they were played. The first one on this list is a perfect example. It's Pac-Man. It's the first video game that I remember playing. I was so impressed. My mom took me to a music store where they were selling various musical instruments. Nothing really excited me, but when I saw Pac-Man, I was amazed. Looking back at that moment, I suspect that the two guys running the shop realized that they had made a terrible mistake. They only got a quarter, maybe two, instead of selling an expensive clarinet, guitar, or trumpet. Also terrible was my first game of Pac-Man. I could barely reach the controls, and I didn't know how to eat the ghosts. It didn't matter. I liked the game, and eventually I would get good. I prefer Ms. Pac-Man over Pac-Man, but the modern versions of this game are amazing, like the Championship Edition. Soon after, I would get an Atari 2600. I had a lot of fun with that console. There were many games to play, like Space Invaders, Adventure, Decathlon, but one game really stands out from the rest. That's Pitfall 2, Lost Caverns. That game really pushed gaming further, as it had horizontal and vertical exploration, swimming, cute background music, and the beginnings of an open-world environment. This game was released after the video game crash of 1983, but it was released before Super Mario Bros., which is one of the reasons why I like Pitfall 2. During a drought of video games, this masterpiece appeared. Now, of course, Super Mario Bros. Often appears on the list of greatest video games of all time. I suppose that could go on the third spot, but I enjoyed Super Mario World so much more. It's the cape. Giving Mario the ability to fly is such a great power-up. Yes, I know there's the raccoon tail in Super Mario Bros. 3, but a cape is so much cooler. Plus, there's Yoshi. Being able to ride a colorful dinosaur was great fun in the early 1990s, and the game still holds up today. Although, I'd probably sooner play Super Mario Bros. Wii instead of Super Mario World. But in general, I prefer the side-scrolling versions of Super Mario Bros. While the 3D Mario games can be fun, I think Super Mario World aged more gracefully than Super Mario 64. But going back to the 8-bit Nintendo Entertainment System, I think Mega Man 2 is still a great game, even today. Back in the day, the graphics were amazing, but that's not the main attraction of the game. It's the music. It's just awesome. The game is also a great adventure. Figuring out the weaknesses of the bosses was intriguing. The game does present a significant challenge, but the passcode system did help out a lot. It's my favorite game on the NES. But eventually, the world wanted more. The Super Nintendo answered the call with 16-bit graphics. The aforementioned Super Mario World looked great. Yet there was another game that was very impressive graphically. It's Street Fighter II. Up until this point, if you wanted great graphics, you had to go to the arcade. But with the Super Nintendo, that's when the allure of the arcades started to wane. Street Fighter II on the Super Nintendo was really close to the arcade. The more expensive arcade machine was being rivaled by a fairly inexpensive home console. And of course, the game was amazing. I played Street Fighter a lot. Even 2 decades later, I was using my PlayStation 3 to play a modernized version of Street Fighter II. A game that started as a legend in the arcades eventually became a boon for home consoles. Personally, I think Nintendo won that generation of the console wars. However, there were two games on the Sega Genesis that I really enjoyed. The first is Phantasy Star II. Wow, that was a big adventure, with great music and colorful graphics. I remember having a conversation with my classmates. They were busy looking at an instruction manual for a computer game. One of the illustrations was of a dragon. I asked, "Does the dragon look like that in the game?" He scoffed, "No." Well, in Phantasy Star II, the dragons looked like dragons. But today, I have trouble playing this game because the action is so slow. Although the same could be said for so many online role-playing games. I thought about adding one of those games to the list, but I don't look back fondly at those games. It was more grinding than playing, which ruined the enjoyment. What I do like is Streets of Rage 2. That is a phenomenal side-scrolling beat-em-up game. The music makes it feel kinda like a dance party, but the fighting makes it feel like a TV show from the 80s and 90s. I also like Final Fight, but I think Streets of Rage 2 is the slightly better game. While Final Fight has somewhat better graphics, I think Streets of Rage 2 has the better combat. Around the mid-90s is when I started using Apple computers. One game on the Mac was quite revolutionary. It's Marathon. This is basically the precursor to Halo. So I count both of these games as one spot on my list. A lot of the all-time great lists mention GoldenEye 007 because of the multiplayer action. Yet Marathon was so much better. My college set up a $1 million network and spent thousands of dollars on new Mac computers. Those computers were used to create student publications, but they were also used to play Marathon. Lots and lots of Marathon. So Halo on the Xbox was quite exciting to a lot of people. I liked it too, but I played Halo on the computer so I could easily play online. After the early 2000s, I thought that I was outgrowing gaming. Nothing really excited me. I played games like Watch Dogs and thought that the game looked amazing, but it was so gritty, so dystopian, so depressing. The iPhone ushered in many entertaining mobile games, but in-app purchases, advertisements, and invasive privacy practices ruined the fun for me. But then I saw Apple Arcade. Wow, there's a lot of fun to be found with such an inexpensive service. It doesn't allow in-app purchases or advertisements. Plus, I think Apple is a bit more strict about respecting the privacy of players. That's why Transformers Tactical Arena makes my top 10 list. This game feels like it was made for me. It uses the characters and style from the 1980s cartoon. It looks and sounds amazing. This game should be way more popular than it has been on Apple Arcade. Perhaps Red Games Co. will release the game on other platforms, like the Nintendo Switch or Steam. Hopefully they add more than just player versus player combat too. I think this game would be even better with a storyline mode or a cooperative mode. So, what's the final game to make the list? I had a lot of trouble deciding that. There are many games that I like, but I'm not sure that I'd put them on this top 10 list. Of course, I like the early Zelda games and the early Metroid games. In the arcades, I really like Gyrus, Spy Hunter, and Robotron 2084. Crazy Taxi and Gauntlet are some other classics. Yet, there's one game that I keep playing, despite it being almost a decade old. This game is something that many of you really seem to like too. It's Crossy Road. While I played Frogger in the 1980s, it wasn't a favorite of mine. But Crossy Road, that game has something extra. It's cute, and it's fun. I wasn't sure if I was going to put it on this list, but then I started thinking, which game would I rather play? It's more than that though. Crossy Road is one of the main reasons why I have an Apple TV. It's just a nice casual game to play. Ultimately, that's what I like from video games. Fun. Is the game fun? Crossy Road is certainly that. Although I suppose this game shares a spot with Crossy Road Castle, which adds a bit of variety to the franchise. So that's my top 10 list. What do you think? Do we like the same games, or are there other games on your top 10 list? You can let everyone know in the comments. Thanks for watching.